Alright, quick intro here. I'll make this super quick. This is my 2K22 final thoughts of the year. Going to be covering the pros and the cons of the content and the pros and the cons of the gameplay. I'm pretty tired right now. Yesterday was my birthday. Had a long day. Haven't made a video in a while, but wanted to get all of this on record. So let's start with the pros of the content. Essentially all of the things that I liked about the content side of MyTeam 2K22. The first one that jumps out to me is clutch time. Clutch time, you guys, unless you've been living under a rock, know exactly what it is. I think it's a great thing for the game. The rewards, decent enough, and just having a somewhere meet in the middle type of game mode from TTO and Unlimited is good. Second thing that I really liked about this year content-wise was the moments of the month. Now, I don't even think I grinded a single one of them, but the way that moments cards were released in the past was just very outdated, so them adding in the moments of the month halfway through the year, I thought was a really good thing. Like I said, I didn't do any of them, but the overall concept was definitely good. I also really enjoyed that a lot of the Unlimited cards, or the final reward for Unlimited, was actually halfway decent. Bob Nidalicki, Gary Payton, Michael Finley even. There was definitely some good ones over the year, and that's kind of my favorite game mode to grind when a new season drops, so pretty thankful that a few of those cards were at least worth it. I got nowhere near 4,000 cards this year, but I'm happy for the people that did. That was definitely worth it. Not only Dark getting an end game, but just all the other stuff that the collector level had throughout the year. I could go on and on. It was well needed, especially after last year where collector level looked like it was gonna die. The card art was pretty decent this year. There were some sets I wasn't a huge fan of, but the overall card art throughout the year was top 3 all time in my opinion. There's definitely some pretty memorable cards like the Power Within ones and a few other themes throughout the year, so the card art overall was mostly a W. They added quite a few gimmicks at the start of the year, but some of them were actually decent. I kind of like the holo cards. I hope they bring that back. And the Shuab, I was not that big of a fan of, but I think that it's still a good thing to have in the game. And now to talk about the stuff that I wasn't a fan of in the content sector this year of MyTeam. My biggest concern, my biggest complaint all year was the lack of SIGs on cards. There was a point in time when we had 900 cards with the Kobe size up escape, and the only card that had the Trey escape was Trae Young. I could go on for days about this. If you guys have been tuned in with MyTeam all year, you know very well that most of the good or S tier type of SIGs were gate kept, at least until Michael Jordan came out in late March. To somewhat branch off of that, definitely wasn't a fan of the fact that dribble styles killed a lot of cards in the first half of the year. Cards like Trae Young, Baron Davis, John Wall should never have base dribble style. Those types of cards should definitely have quick or shifty or an equivalent from day one on. Trust me when I say, on a point guard, it's not overpowered, it's actually more needed. In return, there weren't that many point guards that you could use for the first half of the year. Gary Payton and Penny Hardaway lasted in lineups for nearly 3 seasons until the day that they gave us Lonzo, Jalen Rose, James Harden, and Derrick Rose all on the same day. Gary Payton and Penny Hardaway were seriously the only 2 meta point guards at that point for like 3 months. There just wasn't enough good point guards early on. There were 2 seasons that were absolute disasters. The first one being season 3. I know that a few of the MyTeam devs were on vacation for that month. No knock to them whatsoever. I'm sure they deserve a vacation, and I know my man 6-Man Sam did. But they need to hire in people to cover when those people aren't there. Season 3 was a disaster. The lack of content, the content that they put out, I remember specifically Big Country and Keith Van Horn. Those drops were just out of touch, out of tune, and just very, very bad. That's really the only way I can describe that. And then somehow season 8 and 9 were even worse. Season 8 was really bad. I think there's a lot of other people who have talked in detail about this. We got way too many of the same players that just left way too many actual players without an updated card that is usable for this time of the year. So many people just did not get a usable card this year. It was very disappointing. And somehow season 9 was below expectations when most of the community expected nearly nothing. Season 9, this season currently, probably the worst season I've ever seen in a game. And then last, we just got burnt on hype way too much. Like the 75th lock-ins for Terry Dishlinger and Clay were not worth it whatsoever. Surprisingly enough, the Cedric Maxwell one was really good, and the one time I was pleasantly surprised was when Richard Jefferson was the zero gravity card, but outside of that, too many of the long form grinds and lock-in sets were just not what they should be for those types of things. They weren't good enough. And then to transition into gameplay, let's talk about the things that I actually liked about the gameplay. Starting off would just be the solid amount of dribble moves and different sigs that were actually effective. In 2K21, there was really only one good size up escape, and it was Pro 2. They added in a lot of sigs this year and kind of changed the way they go about naming them. Big fan. I think there's 5 or 6 sigs that are really good for escapes, 5 or 6 sigs that are really good for size ups, and I think there's a lot of potential there moving forward. Out of the past few 2Ks, 2K22 is the least exploitable. There was no major dribble glitch this year, there wasn't a speed glitch or anything crazy like that, no tween glitch, nothing along those lines. There were some major issues that we'll get to in the future, but overall, there wasn't any major exploits. One last thing I did like about the gameplay was height didn't seem like it was as big of a factor as it has been in previous 2Ks. I felt like running shorter cards was more doable towards every part of the year than it's ever been. Even to this day, Michael Jordan's still probably the best guard. Ben Simmons, Giannis, those types of cards that were really big and could run point guard in the past were a bit nerfed, so I was a big fan of that. And on to the things about the gameplay that I was not a fan of. To start off, this is the easiest one, mashing. The mash meta was absolutely insane. There was points in time during the year where you would watch any competitive game and it would literally just be a fight to get to the dead zone. People would sit in the paint, pump fake 5 or 6 times, try and drop your corners. If that didn't work, they'd be able to just go up top of you, make a 45% contested layup with ease, even if the player was a guard. And that kind of ties into dropping corners. I know I said that there wasn't any major exploits this year. This is the closest thing to an exploit we do have. It's just not related to dribbling, and that's just going right underneath the hoop, pump faking 5 or 6 times. No matter what settings are on for the defense, the corners will try and help in that situation, leaving the corners wide open for a 3-pointer, and it's definitely something that needs to be looked at going forward for the new 2Ks. Chase down blocks are just way too OP. The fact that all of the endgame cards only have quick drops 1 as a dunk package tells the whole story. It's just way too easy to get blocks from behind with any sort of dunks. Not great at all. We went back in time with the play calling menu this year. For the past, I don't even know how long, you've been able to open up your play calling menu and then hit a button to call the plays. This year, you had to scroll down. It was super glitchy. Sometimes you would hit circle and the play calling menu wouldn't leave. Overall, it was the worst play calling menu that I think I've ever used in a basketball video game. Next thing that I need to talk about is how easy it was to shoot. Not only was it easy for anybody to shoot, the introduction of uncontestable releases, Luka Doncic, it's not great for the game. I really hope that we don't see as easy of a shooting 2K next year, and I hope that nobody, not a single card, is uncontestable the way that players like Luka, even Devin Booker, or Michael Jordan were this year. It just felt like they patched all of the wrong things. Luka needed to be patched. Mashing needed to be patched. Dropping corners needed to be patched. Instead, they just patched dribbling like 3 times. I don't know. The patching was just not great at all. I think people actually liked patch 1 more than whatever the most recent patch is now. The defensive AI is just way too strong on next gen. It's not that they're smart, it's just that they never hit a screen. They stick to you like glue. I think that it just makes off-balling way too easy on next gen. Current gen, this wasn't really a problem. If you guys play next gen, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Also, if you guys play next gen, how many lobs did you throw this year? Probably not many. It is way too difficult to get an alley-oop off because the defensive AI will snatch them all out of the air. If they don't, you have to time it. I really hope that lobs go back to the way that they were prior so I can get back to throwing some alley-oops. It's just way too easy to press on next gen. Online, like 95% of people run a full court press. Pressing should be something difficult to do that takes some skill, some defensive knowledge, some talent, but unfortunately it's just way too easy to press that almost anybody can do it and do it effectively. I would say that this game is halfway decent and has a good groundwork going forward, but the problem is there's some serious glitches in the game that I don't think can be fixed. If you guys have ever thrown the ball R1 square to your small forward, been wide open, tried to shoot, they can't shoot. That's been in the game for years. The play calling menu getting stuck, the icons getting stuck on defense, you hit R1, your icons won't pop up the whole possession. It's just some major issues like that that I think will be legacy issues and in the game next year as well. But it is what it is. I'm still opportunistic. This year wasn't as good as 2K21 for me, or even 2K22, but I'm super excited for 2K23, and I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, you know, I'm playing this game for a long time. It's not a big deal if 1 year isn't my favorite year on 2K. I'm super excited for 2K23. Hope you guys are too. We'll talk soon.